Here are the top 10 vehicles that are money pits in 2026. Buyer beware. If you're going to purchase any of these vehicles, be prepared. They're going to lose so much value and cost you so much money, you might regret it.
Yeah, perhaps Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, instead of doing a movie about a money pit house, could do a movie about money pit vehicles.
Some quick ground rules here, Pops, because we're not doing this based on vibes. A car takes your money in two ways. First, we're talking about depreciation, and second will be costs for service and maintenance and repairs. The first data sets that we're looking at, this includes the information we have here at CarEdge on depreciation, as well as information from iSeeCars and Consumer Reports. So you got CarEdge, iSeeCars, and Consumer Reports data. We're going to look at depreciation. We're going to look at cost of ownership and service and repairs. Make sense?
Makes perfect sense, because at this point, it's not opinion, it's fact. Okay, you've got three independent sources, and they all pinpoint the same vehicles. Go figure.
All right, let's go number 10. The Ford Mustang Mach-E. Can't be too surprised to see one of the slowest selling cars in the United States of America on this list. The Ford Mustang Mach-E is going to lose almost 61% of its value over 5 years. That's going to equate to just under $23,000 on average.
Yeah, that's $23,000 you could probably find something else to do with. But think of the fuel savings. Think of all those fuel savings. Come on now.
Now, it is a Ford, for goodness sake, so yeah, you have to watch out for recalls, but it should cost you a little bit less in service and repairs, but it's that depreciation that's getting the Ford Mustang Mach-E here at the number 10 spot.
Absolutely.
Number 9 on our list, it's a Nissan, and not the Nissan you might be thinking of. It's the Nissan Leaf. This has some of the worst depreciation of any vehicle we looked at for this study. 63.1% of its value gone, evaporated in just the first 5 years of ownership.
Yeah, and the Leaf was never a really popular vehicle because it didn't have much in the way of range. So it's not surprising that such an early EV of this type would lose the type of money it loses.
Yeah, and we know Nissans in general don't hold their value that well, and the Leaf is obviously leading the way. The number 8 spot when we're talking about money pit new cars, the Volkswagen ID.4. Volkswagen, wow. They're in a lot of trouble right now. Their profitability is really taking a hit, and they're laying off people nationwide and globally, I should say. But the ID.4, this one's an issue because it loses 62.1% of its value over the first 5 years. And dealers nationwide right now have a 350 days supply of inventory, meaning you have so much leverage as a buyer, but it makes sense why you have leverage as a buyer. This thing's overpriced to begin with.
It is indeed. And perhaps Volkswagen will do away with it completely. You never know. And then guess what? You can lose 100% of its value in 5 years or 6 years or whatever it is. But the ID.4 was an idea that nobody voted for.
So many people own the ID.4, but they've also run into a lot of recall issues as well. There was even a lemon law buyback issue for a period there on the ID.4. So definitely a vehicle that if you've purchased or if you're thinking about purchasing, just be aware it's a bit of a money pit. Now, at the number 7 spot, we have yet another electric vehicle. I promise you, they're not all EVs. The Chevy Blazer EV here, Dad. Consumer Reports predicted reliability on this vehicle, a 19 out of 100. That is one of the lowest scores that Consumer Reports came up with. It is an EV, so we know depreciation is going to be heavy here as well. But this one, they're really getting knocked for the reliability issues associated with this vehicle.
Well, we'll all have to wait and see if those reliability issues really do rear their ugly heads. But my guess is that they probably will. Consumer Reports normally has its fingers on the pulse of things like that. So I don't know. I'd think twice about that vehicle.
Yeah, as part of Consumer Reports testing, obviously they do road tests at their track in Connecticut, but they also do surveys out to their audience. And Dad, owners have reported problems with the EV battery, the heating and climate systems, and the screens in the infotainment system in the vehicle. And you and I know this super well. It's not like it's a $50 fee to replace the screen when it stops working in a vehicle. These things are very, very expensive. At the number 6 spot, we have the GMC Acadia. I told you these weren't going to be all electric vehicles. Now, the Acadia, Dad, in Consumer Reports reliability testing, a 14 out of 100 score. That is the lowest score they had for any vehicle. Issues with the transmission, the brakes, the power accessories, the in-car electronics. These things all add up in a hurry. So if you're a GMC Acadia shopper, just know that Consumer Reports, when they did this study, yeah, this is the lowest scoring vehicle in terms of reliability.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure when your salesperson introduces you to the service folks, they're going to tell you to put your service representative's phone number on speed dial because you're going to need it.
Now, it's not just the reliability issues. The cost of ownership is just quite high for GMC products in general. The data we have from CarEdge shows on average for GMC products, you're looking at almost $73,000 in the first 5 years of ownership of their products in terms of just general cost of ownership. And in terms of reliability, GM as a brand came in 23rd out of all 25 brands that Consumer Reports grades. So, yeah, not good. Now, at the number 5 spot, we're talking about new vehicles that are money pits if you purchase them in 2026. Infiniti. And Dad, they get 2 vehicles at the number 5 spot. That's how good they are. The QX80 and the QX60. We're talking about 62.8% and 58.3% in depreciation over the first 5 years, respectively. That's the equivalent of $52,000 being lost on the QX80 in value and over $30,000 in value being lost on the QX60. These things, Dad, they just depreciate rapidly, and their 5-year cost of ownership for the brand Infiniti, $79,951. Not cheap.
Yeah, the Infiniti, the poor man's BMW or Mercedes Benz. Perhaps you should think twice before you think of Infiniti.
Now, it's interesting because Consumer Reports didn't even have a grade for reliability this year for Infiniti. They didn't get enough survey data back, which is also interesting because Land Rover, Jaguar, Maserati, Mini, Mitsubishi, Alfa, Dodge, and Porsche are in the same camp. Just because they don't have a grade from Consumer Reports doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. At the number 4 spot, when we're talking money pits, if you buy them brand new, we've got Tesla here with the Model S and the Model X, respectively. The Model S loses 62% of its value, $58,907 on average over the first 5 years. The Model X loses 61.2% of its value, $61,216. Now, we know these vehicles have been discontinued, so maybe that's playing a role here. But if you bought yourself a new one recently, just recognize these are unfortunately some money pits in the car market today.
Yeah, but my guess is people who bought those Teslas, they're such fans of the vehicles, whether they really like them or not is another story, but they're going to hold on to them and they're going to say, we're not worried about the depreciation. We're keeping this for 10 or 15 years.
Now, credit where credit is due, Dad. Consumer Reports named the Tesla Model Y, so not on this list, the most reliable EV they rated. So Tesla, they're not on this list across the board. It's just these 2 that have been discontinued that, of course, have just lost a ton of value over recent years. Now, at the number 3 spot, the top 3 biggest money pits when it comes to buying new cars in the United States of America. Number 3, the BMW 7 Series. Think about this for a second. Across the entire BMW brand, the 5-year cost to own on average is over $100,000. The 7 Series itself loses 61.6% of its value in the first 5 years. We're talking losing $61,141 in values over the first 5 years of ownership.
Yeah, I think you might actually be right there. You forget I actually worked at a BMW dealership and I saw how those things depreciated like a rock. Okay, nothing seemed to depreciate faster on the BMW side of things than a 7 Series. My suggestion, if you want a 7 Series, wait 3 years and buy it used.
Yeah, and Dad, it's worth mentioning here, Consumer Reports actually ranks BMW 5th overall in reliability. That's the highest for all the European brands on their list. The issue here is just that depreciation and how expensive they are to own in terms of, when you do have to take them in for maintenance and repairs, it's not a cheap bill. At the number 2 spot, Maserati with the Grecale and the Ghibli. So again, just like Nissan, they've got 2 vehicles here. The overall average 5-year cost to own a Maserati, Dad, any guesses?
$120,000.
$166,176. That's 4 Toyota Camrys. Okay, so over 5 years, if you buy a Maserati, Grecale, or Ghibli, you just throwing away 4 Toyota Camrys into it. Isn't that insane?
That is. And you're not even buying the best of an Italian brand. I mean, step up, buy the Ferrari instead.
Number 1 on our list, the biggest money pit in the United States of America, the Land Rover Range Rover. This thing depreciates 61.7% over the first 5 years of ownership, so approximately $70,000. And the 5-year cost to own a Land Rover, $108,889. And Consumer Reports, although they didn't necessarily get enough data to give it a full grade, they say it's the most expensive brand to maintain over 10 years of ownership. What's the old saying, Dad? If you want to drive a Range Rover or a Land Rover every day, you got to have 2 of them.
Exactly, because one is going to be in the shop all the time. And the other, well, is waiting to take that first one's place.
Now, back at caredge.com/costs, we have all of this data and, most importantly, Dad, the opposite vehicles there as well. Which brands have the lowest cost of ownership? Which vehicles are the best values? Go check that out back at caredge.com/costs.